Russia's strategy in Africa is at a crossroads. On one hand, we see a recalibration. Moscow is ramping up military partnerships, securing arms deals, and expanding its influence through mercenary groups like the Wagner Group. This is a bid to counter Western dominance and tap into Africa's vast resources. But there's also a retreat. Economic sanctions and internal pressures are forcing Russia to reassess its commitments. Countries like Mali and the Central African Republic are caught in this tug-of-war, navigating their own interests while dealing with a partner that's increasingly stretched thin. The question looms: will Russia solidify its foothold in Africa or pull back, leaving a vacuum for others to fill? The stakes are high, and the outcome could reshape geopolitical dynamics on the continent. Russia's influence in Africa has been evolving rapidly, raising questions about whether its current moves signal a strategic recalibration or a retreat. As Moscow grapples with the ongoing war in Ukraine and increasing Western sanctions, its engagement with Africa has taken on new urgency, both as an economic lifeline and a geopolitical counterbalance. Historically, Russia has maintained strong ties with African nations, particularly through arms deals, resource agreements, and political alliances forged during the Cold War. More recently, Moscow has deepened its footprint by supporting authoritarian leaders, deploying Wagner Group mercenaries, and offering military aid in exchange for economic concessions. Countries like Mali, the Central African Republic, CAR, and Sudan have become key partners in Russia's Africa strategy, benefiting from military assistance while granting Moscow access to minerals, oil, and other valuable resources. However, recent developments suggest a shift in Russia's approach. The Wagner Group, once a critical tool for Russian influence, has been in flux following the death of its leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin. With its future uncertain, Moscow may be reassessing its reliance on private military groups to maintain its foothold in Africa. Additionally, Russia has been expanding diplomatic outreach, hosting African leaders in summits, forgiving debts, and increasing trade deals, signaling a potential pivot toward a more state-led engagement rather than purely military-driven interactions. Despite these efforts, Russia faces significant challenges. China remains Africa's dominant external player, offering massive infrastructure projects and loans that dwarf Russian investments. Meanwhile, the United States and Europe are intensifying their diplomatic efforts, providing alternative security arrangements and economic partnerships to African nations wary of over-reliance on Moscow. The question remains: is Russia adapting to new geopolitical realities, or is it slowly retreating from its African ambitions due to internal struggles? While Moscow appears committed to maintaining its presence, the tools and methods it employs may be evolving. Whether this shift will enhance Russia's standing in Africa or weaken its influence in the face of global competition is yet to be seen.